can certainly,
Sorry.
sorry, can certainly say that it is a marvelous product because we're getting great reviews in terms of how people are hearing better and the clarity of speech is so better. So I'll talk a little bit about our new Marvel technology. And then, as Steve said, I'm an auditory verbal therapist and a speech and language pathologist. So rehab is in my heart, and both MedEl and Advanced Bionics have fabulous resources for listening practice that is great for a beginning user. It's great for users that are already using their cochlear implants. So just wanted to share that information with you as well. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the facts behind hearing loss. And many of you may know this, but 48 million people in the United States are shown to have some form of hearing loss. And that's about 20% of our population, which to me is a pretty high number. Unfortunately for the males in our audience, men are 2 times more prone to having hearing loss than women. Although I feel like I need to have my own hearing tested, so the men are still a little bit safe. The other fact that we have to think about is how the percentage of hearing loss increases as age increases. So between the ages of 45 to 54, the percentage of hearing loss is 2%. But then as we get older, 55 to 64 years, it increases to 8.5%. And at 65 to 74, 25% of the population report some type of hearing loss. And by 75 years and older, 50% of the population has some type of hearing loss. So it almost amazes me that hearing loss has kind of been that silent disease almost, that people are sometimes afraid to talk about, afraid to show their equipment, afraid to talk about wearing hearing aids. But if you think about it, 50% of the people who are 75, and that's young to me, 75 years and older, have some type of hearing loss. So we are not alone in any sense of the word. The other very interesting fact when we think about disease, hearing loss is the 3rd most prevalent disease. And that's only 3rd to heart disease and arthritis. And I'm sure that this is something that all of you can relate to. If I sat here and asked all of you what the impact of hearing loss has been on your life, either before you started wearing hearing aids or now that you're wearing cochlear implants, you would all relate to these impacts. The first one is cognitive decline. And there are actually many cochlear implant centers who are now doing studies on the impact of hearing loss and the onset of dementia. Also, untreated hearing loss may impact job performance and just earning potential. It has broken my heart so many times when I meet with a new candidate who has told me they had to leave their job because they couldn't work, they couldn't talk on the phone, they couldn't communicate at meetings. And that is something that in this day and age should never happen. And then also, hearing loss, as we all know, is going to have a negative impact on the relationships we have with partners, with our friends, with our families. I've seen that in my own family with relatives who have hearing loss and don't want to go to wedding showers and they don't want to go to birthday parties because they truly can't communicate in that type of setting. We also know that with untreated hearing loss, more commonly reported incidences of depression and isolation and social withdrawal and fatigue. Fatigue is something I used to talk about with teachers and the students I was working with. By the end of the day, a student with hearing loss is listening at such a greater expense than other individuals, and fatigue certainly affects how they're going to function throughout the day, as well as with adults. And then when you think about hearing loss and associated hospitalizations and medical conditions, including diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And of course, anytime that we're under stress, anytime that we're feeling depressed, it's going to affect our medical health. And those with untreated hearing loss are more likely to report reduced quality of life overall due to physical and social limitations. So let's look at what happens after cochlear implantation. And I would love to hear at some point in time how many of you had life-changing wow moments after your cochlear implant. The quality of life is bound to increase. Your self-esteem, you're going to feel better about yourself. Feeling better about yourself just lays that foundation for getting out and being more active and more social. Many people get back to work, and of course, just being more social with your friends and family. So at AB, and I know with all three manufacturers, we have the same goal. We know that everyone deserves to connect to a full life of sound. And that's what we do on a daily basis. Not so much me, but the great researchers at Advanced Bionics who are making and developing technology. We want our recipients to have a full life of sound and just a full life in general. So you need to think about, if you're wearing hearing aids, talk to the individuals around you and that you know who have cochlear implants, and make that decision whether or not a cochlear implant is right for you. And if you can answer some of these questions, then you might say to yourself, let me talk to my audiologist about this. Think about restaurants and parties and how you function in those settings. Is it difficult to hear? Is the noise distracting? Or are you just not going to these occasions in general? What about doctor's appointments? I've seen my mother do this firsthand at a doctor's appointment. The doctor is talking to her about medicine that she needs to take, and her head is going up and down the whole time. And when we leave, she isn't able to tell me anything that the doctor really was explaining. So we should never be afraid to advocate for ourselves. We should never be afraid to say, can you repeat that? I didn't understand. But I know that's something that even young children have a hard time doing. What about going to the beach or the pool when everybody is swimming or jumping in the ocean and you're not able to do that unless you take your hearing aids or your processor off? Luckily, we have solutions for that now, but in the past, going to this type of setting was very difficult for most people. And music. I hear so much about how people want to get back to listening to music and just are not able to do that right now with their hearing aids. And the telephone. Do you have difficulty speaking on the telephone? Well, we have some solutions for that too. And just going to the movies and watching television. If all of these situations are difficult for you, if you avoid them, then now is a good time to really have a strong conversation with your hearing healthcare provider. So many of you know, or may not know, that AB partners with Phonak, one of the world's largest hearing aid manufacturers. And as a result of that partnership with Phonak, we now have our new Marvel CI and our Sky CI-M processor that we'll talk about in a minute. But I would like to talk about what happens when you decide to go on that path to getting a cochlear implant. And it starts out with a referral, and that comes from the conversation that you're having with your audiologist. He or she may recommend that now's the time to get a cochlear implant evaluation, and that would certainly be done at a cochlear implant center in your area. Then you can meet with AB, but I truly believe you need to meet with MedEl and Cochlear as well, because this is about your life. This is a decision you have to make that's going to fit into your way of life, to what's important to you in your life, and you'll find discrete differences between all of us. The best thing for you as an individual with hearing loss is to educate yourself and make the best decision for you. And of course, after all that and having your testing done, other tests like MRI and CAT scans that need to be done, a surgery is scheduled. And if you're afraid of the surgery, just speak with other cochlear implant recipients and they will calm your nerves. Cochlear implant surgery is probably one of the least invasive surgeries you can have. Most people go home the day of surgery and are up and about, taking it easy, but feeling pretty well the day after. Then after a few weeks, you have your initial activation. And each center, it may be a little bit different, but your initial activation takes place. Maybe a week or 2 weeks later, you have your second visit, and then you continue some visits up to about 6 months until everything is programmed and stabilized. And then typically a visit back to the audiologist either every 6 months or once a year. And that is your programming and follow-up schedule. And of course, as you see in the middle of that big circle is rehab. So rehab starts right now at the very beginning and continues until after your surgery and onwards until you're feeling really good about how you're using your auditory technology. Whoop.
Is there supposed to be sound going with that?
So I kind of sprung that on you without introducing it, but that was our new NAIDA CIM. And it is so beautiful. I wish that we were close up and personal right now so that I could actually show you, because we've made some really great changes with all of you in mind. But that was the NAIDA CIM. And we're going to talk a little bit about the new features. And I don't know if anybody in the audience is eligible to upgrade. If you're using a Q70 or a Q90, you know, when you get to that point that your processor is 5 years old or you're having malfunctions with it, certainly send me a quick email because I can help you through that upgrade process. And I'll just tell you a quick little story. I have a habit, Steve, of talking too much. So tell me if I'm taking up too much time. I had a gentleman who was due for an upgrade. And I emailed and called him and we spoke and he just kept putting it off and putting it off. And then finally I called his daughter and I said, Clarissa, you really need to convince your dad to go through with this upgrade. And his insurance approval was almost running out and I was ready to have a heart attack. So I called the upgrade team and I said, we have got to get this gentleman his upgrade. He needs it. He should have it. Well, she emailed me yesterday and said that he left his programming appointment for the upgrade and he said he felt like a new man, which to me is just a miracle. You know, he went from his previous processor to our new processor and he was just hearing so much better. And he said, I'm so sorry I didn't listen to Jane and do this earlier. But the good news is that he has it now. And that's just one of the great stories that I have heard over the past few months. So the NAIDA CIM is more cosmetically appealing. We'll talk about that. It has integrated Bluetooth, Bluetooth Classic and Bluetooth LE, Roger Direct. We have a new, beautiful and cute little modern waterproof solution, a streamlined accessory option, mobile application, which many people wanted that mobile app, an updated bimodal solution, which is so important for those of you who can be implanted on one side, but still want to continue using a hearing aid on the other side. Our solution actually has the Link M, which is a hearing aid designed to communicate with the cochlear implant. A streamlined fitting platform, which has made life for audiologists incredibly easy, and wireless programming with Link. So as I mentioned earlier, we really want a world for everyone to enjoy the delights of hearing and therefore to live a life without limitations. So again, we talked about wireless digital chip technology, integrated Bluetooth, Roger Direct, the single multifunctional button that you saw in the video, which allows you to change programs, change volume, has LED lights, the multifunction indicator light, and improved retention, which was a great improvement in our new Marvel CIM, and I'll show you that. So this is the Marvel CIM. We still have our wonderful T-mic, but this is the processor itself, the power cell or battery, the T-mic ear hook, which many of you know is patented by AB. So many people love the T-mic because it makes listening on the telephone easier. And actually, research on use of the T-mic showed that speech perception scores improved by close to 40%, specifically because of where the T-mic is located, right outside the ear canal where we naturally capture sound. And the headpiece is so much slimmer than the Q90 and Q70 headpiece, which is really great. It's light and slim. So this is our Marvel CI. Of course, you have the very traditional colors to choose from. But we also have now the world's first pediatric solution in cochlear implant sound processors. And many people are thrilled as adults to be able to get the Sky CIM, and I'll show you in a minute because it gives you that choice of some really fancy colors. So the Sky CIM was really designed initially based on AutoSense Sky OS 3.0. And AutoSense 3.0 was the platform that really allowed individuals, children especially to begin with, to go through their day seamlessly. If you think about a child's day when they get up in the morning and get on a noisy school bus, and then they go to a quiet classroom, and from there they go to the noisy lunchroom or an echoey gymnasium. Well, AutoSense Sky 3.0 was designed to seamlessly allow the processor to make changes without the child even knowing those changes were being made. And then we all realized that adults go through that same type of day. Now we leave the quiet home and we go into the noisy grocery store, or maybe we're going to the theater or into New York City. AutoSense 3.0 will also allow adults to be able to go seamlessly throughout their day. So it's all about ease of use, comfort of use, and great technology that's helping you to hear your best. A really nice aspect of the Sky and the NAIDA CIM is the retention and wearing options, and I'll show you some of that coming up. So here, ladies and gentlemen, are the beautiful colors that you can wear. Karen, if you get the new upgrade, you can get Precious Pink or Lava Red, and I have many adults who have gotten the Sky just to get one of the fancy colors. So in the past, many of you can relate if you have advanced Bionics. The processor that you were wearing had different size batteries, they were straight, they came down below your ear, and if you were using any of the Roger technology, you needed to have extra receivers. But all of that has changed. So if you look at this closely and then look at what's new, you can see that the Marvel CI has an ergonomic design. It's curved to fit your ear and hug your ear for comfort and retention. And for some of you who might know Sam Spritzer, you may have met him. He's one of my mentors up in Buffalo. He came to the Alder conference with me, and he jumped up and down and bent over and backwards just to show the participants how the processor stayed on his ear without any additional help. So that new shape has really made a big difference. And then we have the multifunction button, which is very easy to make volume changes, program changes, streaming, and progressive levels, which is also just another word for the different programs you might have. And then it's nice because our batteries are smaller and also curved. So even for adult women, I have been suggesting the medium-sized battery, which is still very small, but lasts a full day, greater than or equal to 16 hours. But it's just nice to have those different options in terms of batteries and battery size. And this will just give you an idea of battery length. The small battery is greater than or equal to 9 hours, which usually I recommend the small battery for very, very little ones, because the difference between the small and the medium is really not huge. So for me, I would like to have the longer day, 16 hours. So, and the large battery, I have found that mostly just adult men are using the larger battery, but that's certainly a personal choice and what really fits your daily life. And then the typical charger that many of you might be familiar with if you're using advanced Bionics. Just take your battery off at nighttime, charge it, and it's ready in the morning. And then, of course, the T-mic that we talked about comes in different sizes depending on your size. And then the slim headpiece, which I just love. In comparison to the Q90 headpiece, it is much, much smaller, thinner, and lighter. And it is also available with a microphone or without the microphone. So that's a choice that you have if you like to wear your processor off the ear for any reason, exercise, bike riding, running, gardening, where you don't want to have anything behind your ear. So choices that you can make. So it's slim and streamlined. You have the option of the integrated microphone or not. The redesigned magnet well fits the battery. So, and the cable is now integrated, so it's all one piece. So in a nutshell, I didn't want to take too much time talking about the Naida M, but that gives you an overall idea, and you can certainly reach out to me for more information about the Naida or the Sky, and we can talk about that further. But this is just a little bit about the rehab resources we have that some of you may be familiar with, but I thought some of you might need a little reminder. So we now have a new app. It's called Word Success. And I'll tell you a little bit about that if you haven't heard or tried to use it. So Word Success, Sound Success, Musical Atmospheres, the Listening Room, and then on the AB website, we have PDFs of listening practice at home, just little tips that you can use, and AB tips can also be found on the website. So Sound Success is a free app. You can go to the Google Store or the App Store and download it for free. It gives you the opportunity to work on discrimination of words and phrases. You can take a placement test and it will help you to decide just about where you should start the program. You also have that option of using recorded voice, or if any of you happen to work, with a family member or a therapist or a rehab specialist, you can use live voice as well. What I love about our programs is that you can also add background noise. So if it seems to be a little bit easy for you, I find listening in noise is always one of the most challenging skills to achieve. So you can, if you see at the bottom, you can click on with background noise. And then you can also set up different profiles for yourself. So you could set up a profile for your right ear as opposed to your left ear, just to see, like, are you listening better with one or the other? And maybe one of them needs a little bit more practice. And then there's also the opportunity for program tracking as well. And then, of course, we have Sound Success. Sound Success is not an app. It's a web-based program, but it's also free. You can access Sound Success by going to hearingsuccess.com. And you'll have to register with a username and password. But then once you're registered and answer a few questions, you can access all of the rehab resources there. You'll see, if you put in that you're an adult, it will bring you to the adult page where you'll find Sound Success and some of our other adult programs. But Sound Success is a very functional online program that's really based on many of our daily activities and things that we may struggle with throughout the day. It's great, really. Take the time to look at it. This little video will give you an overview, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. Okay, so just ignore abrehabportal.com. That was the initial URL that you had to use. But now, as I mentioned earlier, it's hearingsuccess.com. And if you have trouble and you can't find it, just always send me a quick email. My email will be at the end, and Steve also has it. And I can walk you through all of this. Oops, sorry. So as you can see in Sound Success, there are 6 different speakers that have videos for all of the lessons that you're going to do. And the 6 different speakers they're based on the dialects that are found throughout the country. So they're giving you practice listening to someone with a heavy Boston accent or someone with a heavy Southern accent. You could see that one of our friends has a beard and a mustache. So some people might find one person easier to listen to than another, but just take your time and go through the different speakers to see, like, what's easiest for you and what's a little bit more difficult. So you can choose the speaker and the dialect and choose that there's 2 different levels, getting started and up and running. And just navigate your way through and pick different lessons to work on. You can listen to a passage, but what's nice is you can really challenge yourself. If you find that certain things are easy because you're reading the words and you're listening at the same time, take the words away and try to just listen. So you can do lip reading and audition. or you can take everything away and do auditory only. So it's a great way, like if you don't have a therapist with you, to really practice your listening skills. And again, you can practice in quiet and in noise. They have little drop-down boxes on the side where you can choose your speaker and choose whether you want noise or not. What I like as well is that any one of you who does try Sound Success, print out this tracking your progress sheet, because when you go back to the audiologist, some of this information is really helpful to him or her in terms of what you found to be easy and what you found to be more difficult. And that's going to help with your programming sessions. We also have another program called Musical Atmospheres. So if you want to get back to listening to music, go to the website, hearingsuccess.com, and you can sign into Musical Atmospheres. There are 5 different chapters where you can do many different things related to music. Just listening to the musical track of a song to see if you can guess what it is. Then there's one where you have to identify an adult, a female singer, a male singer, or a child. There's also a chapter where you can practice recognizing different instruments. So all of that is a great way if you're planning on going to the symphony to do some work on identifying different musical instruments. And then of course, the listening room has been around for as long as I can remember. As you can see, when you sign into the listening room, which is very different from Hearing Success, you have to go to the listeningroom.com and it's a different login, but you can see that you can choose the adult level. I'm pointing to the wrong screen. It has activities for infants and toddlers, preschool, all the way up through adult. So you can actually do some phone practice while you're in the listening room, in addition to other activities as well. In the listening room, they have some great, suggestions for using card games that you might be familiar with, like Uno. So Game Changer is one where you're actually playing a card game, but they're giving you ways to practice identifying words in closed sets, identifying words in conversation. So you're practicing your listening while having a good time playing the game as well. And then don't forget, a lot of people are, forget about this. When you go on to the AB website, you can see up here where it says blog. So if you log on and subscribe to the AB blog, you'll have access to a lot of powerful stories from other CI recipients. It's available in English and Spanish. So it's a great resource to use if you just want to sit back and meet other people. And many of you may already belong to Hearing Journey, which is another great way to reach out to other recipients and others who are considering a cochlear implant. So there's a lot of great information, and it's all meant to let you know that we are here to support you. We don't want anyone with hearing loss to feel that they are alone, that they don't have support. So please always reach out to me, reach out to the other representatives if you have MedEl or Cochlear, because we all have wonderful support systems for all of you. And that's it. So I think I did okay with time, right, Steve?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jane. And again, we'll have time for questions later. So if we can, let's switch over to Rebecca Mancini of MedEl. And if you could put your slides up, Rebecca, we'll be ready to go.
Okay, great. I'm just going to try to take over from Jane's screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Rebecca Mancini with MedEl Corporation. Thank you, Jane, for that excellent presentation. You did an awesome job explaining the importance of oral rehab. And I'm going to discuss some of the rehab materials and resources that are available through MedEl as well. So I'm going to play off of you just a little bit there. I am an audiologist. So my role here at MedEl is to work with both candidates and recipients along their journey to getting either a cochlear implant or a bone conduction device. But I also work with your audiologists. So if you're going to a clinic that's in my territory, you might be seeing a lot of me. So it's a really great position. I cover Connecticut and upstate New York, as well as a few centers in New York City area. So if you see me around, please feel free to say hello. And I know today the focus is going to be on cochlear implants, but I did want to take a quick moment to discuss some of the bone conduction options available here at MedEl. And so I do quickly want to introduce the two bone conduction technologies called the Adhere and the Bone Bridge. If someone is interested in learning more about these, please feel free to email me after this call. I'm just going to do a quick touch on these two technologies so you're aware that they're out there. The Adhere is designed for individuals with a normal bone conduction hearing in at least one ear. So this could mean a single-sided deafness or a conductive hearing loss. Okay, it's a pressureless system that is worn via this low mass adhesive. And that adhesive is a medical grade adhesive placed on that mastoid bone right behind the ear, intended to last about 3 to 7 days. Okay. The processor, you can see in this last picture, is then attached to that adhesive to improve your access to sound via bone conduction. Okay, so this is what it looks like worn just behind the ear. The second bone conduction device in MedEl's portfolio is called the Bone Bridge, and this is an implantable bone conduction device made by MedEl. This has been on the market since 2012, and it is FDA approved for people with mixed hearing loss, conductive hearing loss, and also single-sided deafness. So this is an implantable option. You can see in the picture here that this processor will transmit the sound, and it makes the connection to that implant via a magnet. Okay, so this implant is completely under the skin, keeping MedEl's intact skin description that we're going to see in that mission statement valid. So the processor, again, this piece worn right on under the hair, it's very low profile against the head, and the whole system is designed for an active lifestyle. So as the sound is being conducted via that direct bone conduction, it's going to give our patients that outstanding sound quality, okay? So this implant is designed to be future ready, meaning that as new processors are released, the processors will be backwards compatible to the previous generations of implants. So if this is something you're interested in learning more about, or you think it might be something that you could look into as an option with your hearing loss or someone that, one of your loved ones, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk more about it, because the bulk of today, as you all know, is about cochlear implants. So at MedEl, our mission is that we want to overcome hearing loss as a barrier to communication and quality of life. We effectively yet gently restore hearing by offering a comprehensive set of intact skin hearing implant solutions. And we thus provide best benefit to individuals with a hearing loss today, tomorrow, and worldwide. So MedEl is a worldwide company. Our global headquarters is based in Innsbruck, Austria, and our US headquarters is in Durham, North Carolina. So if you ever get a call from me, it'll come from a North Carolina number, but I promise I live in Connecticut. I am local to the majority of people here on this meeting. And I'm going to go into a little bit of support that MedEl offers. Oral rehab, having a support system, and utilizing tools for listening are so important to the journey of an individual with hearing loss, no matter what device you're using. and MedEl has many different resources available to this community. So of course, up first, we have the engagement team. This is the Northeast engagement team, but if you live outside of our region, I know we have a few from Florida here, make sure that you can get connected with your engagement manager in your territory. So I hope some of you recognize these faces. I am your engagement manager for the Westchester area and upstate New York. So if you or a loved one is looking for support in either English or in Spanish, I'm happy to connect you with the appropriate engagement manager. So you can see here we have Annie on our team. She is a bilingual engagement manager, meaning that our Spanish speaking candidates and recipients will get support in their native language, and all MedEl's materials are interpreted to be culturally appropriate for the Spanish speaking population. So if you know anybody who's interested in connecting with another recipient, feel free to reach out to us through this Northeast Hearing Help inbox, and we can definitely get you connected and kind of share your story and learn more about the stories of other people in our Hear Peers community. Okay, so again, if you want to write this down quickly, I could also pop it in the chat later. But our bucket email where you can access any of us is NE for Northeast, ne.hearinghelp@medel.com. And that's going to be the best way to reach us. The MedEl YouTube page is a great resource if you are looking for any educational videos. So here you can learn what's a cochlear implant, what is hearing loss. You can learn more just about the system in general. You can also find videos that are specific to the MedEl processors, the Rondo 3 or the Sonnet 2. And you can also find videos on the accessories. If you're looking to hear some stories about individuals' experiences, you can come to our YouTube channel and you can find testimonials here as well. So if you don't necessarily want to connect with someone and start a conversation, but you just want to hear a feel-good story, those are also on our YouTube channel. I've said the word Hear Peers a few times. Hear Peers is our vibrant community of MedEl recipients. And here the recipients can interact with one another and share their stories. So our community is thriving. There's an international forum and a US Facebook group where members of the Hear Peer community can connect with others and share their stories, access tips and tricks, and stay up to date on the latest with MedEl. So I know, again, we have a few recipients here. If you are not yet registered as a Hear Peer, please visit this website, www.hearpeers.us, and please register to sign up today. And again, we also did just launch that Facebook group. If you're not in that already, please look on Facebook for the MedEl US Hear Peers group. So this leads me to the events, right? So we're talking about this community and how it's very easy to connect with one another, and the real hub for where you're going to learn about these meetings and these social gatherings is through our events website. So it's just medelevents.com. And here the members of the Hear Peers community have the opportunity to connect with one another, share their story, even host a certain topic if they're interested in doing that. Right now, everything is being held virtually, but I anticipate as the world hopefully begins to open back up soon, that we can gather in live spaces again. So if you're considering getting a cochlear implant and you'd like to speak with someone in our community, I know you have great access to one another within this chapter. So definitely begin here and kind of get that conversation rolling. But if you would like to speak with a few more people, feel free to register for an event. And you can do that through medelevents.com. So this brings me to my one-on-one meetings. Another great resource is that you can register for a slot and reserve that time to meet with me or your engagement manager one-on-one. So my next one for the New York area will be on November 18th, which is next Thursday. If anyone is interested in signing up to reserve a time slot, we can talk about technology. We can go over any questions you have from today's meeting, or we can talk about oral rehab. So feel free to send me an email and I can give you a time slot for that. Again, it's going to be either you can register through our page at medelevents.com, or you can shoot me an email to ne.hearinghelp@medel.com. So as Jane mentioned, oral rehab is an integral piece of this journey with a hearing device. So you can easily access all of our resources that we're discussing today on our website. Okay, so whether or not you have a MedEl device, you can go to the medel.com website. You can click on support, and then you'll click on rehab downloads. Okay, and here you can explore rehabilitation downloads as well as access our blog. So we also have a blog that you can subscribe to. And that's where you're going to access different tips and tricks and some additional videos that may be useful to you along this journey. Okay. So under this rehab download tab on our page, you're going to see some different adult and pediatric brochures, and they're going to provide an overview of specific topics and link to additional resources. So some examples of the adult brochures that are available to you are music tips for adults. So this is going to provide you with some tips and tricks to enjoy listening to music again. And embedded in here is also a QR code. I'm sure you're all familiar with QR codes now at restaurants where you have to scan the QR code to access your menu. If any of you have gone out to eat lately, but it's the same concept. You can scan this QR code and it'll actually link to a music playlist that was curated by our musicologist on staff. Her name is Johanna. So you can access that playlist very easily through this brochure. We also have a single-sided deafness brochure that outlines the benefits of binaural hearing, hearing with two ears, and it also links to all of the available oral rehab resources. And lastly, we have the sound localization brochure, which is going to outline information about sound localization, and it'll include tips and tricks for improving your ability to locate sounds in your environment. So the rehab section on the website, like I mentioned, it also links to that MedEl blog. And on the blog, there's a rehabilitation section where you can access lesson kits. And these lesson kits are super helpful because they are specifically curated in 3 different difficulty levels, and they're super easy to implement at home, okay? So within each kit, once you open it up, it has everything you need from instructions for what to do during the exercises to the materials that you need to accomplish that session. So I encourage you all to go look at those rehab lesson kits. There are some for pediatrics and some for adults. So just make sure as you're looking through the different themes that you select the ones that say adult rehab lesson kits. But everything in there is broken down with step-by-step instructions and everything you need to complete the kit or that lesson for that day is included. And what's really nice is because there are 3 difficulty levels, you can utilize that same kit multiple times. So once you kind of download it and print it, you have everything you need for at least 3 sessions. And that brings me into our technology section. As you're all aware, MedEl and all of the cochlear implant companies are always constantly innovating with both technology and resources. So I can tell you that we always are coming up with new resources for you all to take advantage of and to help support you along this journey to better hearing. So be sure that you're checking our website for updated materials and that you're kind of keeping an eye out for any new releases so that you can take advantage of them as they come. But now moving forward, let's talk about the technology. So as Jane mentioned earlier, it is super important to be educated about all the manufacturers and make whatever decision fits you or your family best when moving forward with cochlear implantation. So MedEl likes to describe our implant system sort of in this pyramid metaphor. So the implant is at the foundation and it's the base upon which all of the other technology will build. So here you can see the implant. This is called the Synchrony 2. Okay, this is designed to be forward compatible to all future processors. It's also MRI conditional up to 3.0 Tesla, and it's built with this Triformance technology, and that's what we're going to get into on our next slide. The second layer, this green layer here, this is going to be talking about that processor or externally worn device where the microphones are picking up and processing the sound. MedEl offers two different styles for this called the Rondo 3, and that is completely rechargeable. It has the highest water and dust resistance rating, and it's worn completely off the ear. Okay, so this Rondo 3 is an all-in-one device. Then we also have the Sonnet 2, and that's the behind the ear device. So with the Sonnet 2, you have a lot of flexibility in wearing options. You have the flexibility to use rechargeable or disposable batteries. And also some people may prefer the comfort of wearing a device behind their ear. So as we're building our pyramid, the final tier is going to be accessories. So at the top of our pyramid, we have accessories. These are sort of ever changing. They're always evolving. And we're releasing these technologies a lot faster, right? Because they are more Bluetooth. Bluetooth is constantly changing, and all of the way that we're connecting to our phones and things like that is ever evolving. So currently our product portfolio is offering the Audio Stream, which is a battery sleeve that allows for direct streaming from your phone or your iPad or any tablet for iPhone and Android. The Audio Link, which is a 4-in-1 streaming device. So you only need one accessory to accomplish 4 different tasks of streaming your television, streaming a phone call, streaming media, or even using it as a remote microphone. The Fine Tuner Echo is here. That's going to be a physical remote control option if you don't want to use your app, but the app is also available to use as a remote control with a few additional features. And lastly, this is a telecoil neck loop. So if you're a heavy telecoil user, or say you have a hearing aid that has a telecoil on the other ear, you can choose this neck loop on your order form, and you can be able to stream to both devices via telecoil. Okay, so these are all the current accessories that are being offered with MedEl, whether it's an upgrade or whether it is a new activation. I mentioned the word Triformance before. So Triformance is really a fancy marketing term that really just means the synergy of these 3 concepts is going to provide the most natural sound quality for MedEl patients. So this is talking about the design of that internal implant, okay, the part that the surgeon is implanting. So the first pillar is structure preservation. Okay, so that's kind of when we're talking about structure preservation, we're talking about the fact that the electrode is designed to preserve the structures of the cochlea. Okay, this is done through the use of wave-shaped wires and just a few other design elements that keep that array that the surgeon is manipulating very flexible. The second pillar is called complete cochlear coverage. So with complete cochlear coverage, we're really talking about the length of that electrode array. So we want to make sure that it's covering the entire cochlea or hearing organ and activating those low frequency sounds in addition to the high frequencies. And then again, because that electrode is very long, it's able to stimulate the low frequencies or those deep pitches of sound. So MedEl is implementing this fine hearing coding strategy, and I'm going to talk what that means in a little bit. So this is my favorite video. I always show this video. So if you've been on calls with me before, I'm sure you're familiar with it. This is showing structure preservation. You can see how this electrode array is gently adapting to the shape of this unique cochlea here. and it's preserving those delicate structures of that hearing organ by staying along that outside lateral wall. Another great thing you can see when this video turns sideways is just how deep that electrode is inserted to reach that low frequency or low pitch area. That's a good segue into my next concept, which is complete cochlear coverage. So like I mentioned before, not all electrodes are the same. So like the keys on a piano, the hearing organ is arranged in order of pitch. So I've said this a couple times, but one end of the cochlea, here it's colored in purple, that's going to be responsible for those high-pitched sounds of the incoming signal that you're listening to, while that deeper end of the hearing organ captures the low-pitched sounds. So we know the importance of stimulating both the high and the low frequency areas in a normal hearing ear, right? That whole entire hearing organ in your normal hearing ear is activating to an incoming signal. MedEl wants to make sure that we're replicating that with our electrode stimulation. So MedEl's electrode portfolio, which you can see the different length electrodes over on this side, it's designed with a variety of lengths to reach the deep, low frequencies for each individual's needs based on their anatomy. So this is going to be determined by your surgeon based on your individual anatomy. Okay. And the last part is called fine hearing. So this is really talking about the coding, what's happening at the level of the implant internally. Okay. So with an incoming sound, there are two elements, right? We have our envelope and our fine structure. And both of these are important for different reasons. The envelope is important for speech understanding of Western languages like English and German and Italian. And it's also important for sound localization. The fine structure, which you can see in this traveling wave here, is this blue line. So it's more the timing of that incoming wave. So that's important for sound localization as well, but it's also important when we start thinking about music appreciation, discrimination of tonal pitches. So that's sort of like Mandarin. It's going to support the timing of that incoming signal and also support speech understanding in noise. So this is a low frequency concept. Our neurons in our brain are actually responding to the fine structure of sound in that low frequency area. And so MedEl is responding to that and sending that signal along in the low frequencies. So those are all the design elements of the internal implant. And one last important feature is the new MRI guarantee. So MedEl guarantees that we will replace the implant in the very unlikely event that it is damaged in an MRI scan that's conducted according to instructions. So MedEl cares about its users for a lifetime, and it offers the MRI guarantee for all MedEl cochlear implants, no matter when you were implanted. So that means if you were implanted a long time ago and your original manufacturer warranty has run out, MedEl still covers, the MRI aspect by this lifetime guarantee. So this MRI guarantee exists outside of your regular warranty. Access to MRI, as we all know, reduces the chance of under or misdiagnosis for a variety of health issues. So this is a very important concept. And I just want you all to be aware that this is available for all of our cochlear implants. And if you did ever need scanning instructions for our current recipients on the line, that is available through our website. So if you did need an MRI for whatever reason, you can find all of these scanning instructions to give to your radiologist right on our website, sort of at the bottom of the page. And that brings me into my processors and accessories. So now we're going to talk about the portfolio and more of the physical kind of products that you would be manipulating as a current recipient. So of course, up first, we have the Rondo 3. So the Rondo 3 is incredibly simple to use. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but it is the third generation of the off-the-ear processor. I have mine here. It looks like this. Okay. I have black hair, so it's not going to help if I hold it. But basically, the Rondo 3 has 2 microphones, and so we're able to take advantage of a new sound strategy called Automatic Sound Management 3.0. So what this is going to do is it's going to analyze what scenes and environments that you're in, and it will make automatic changes. So if you're going from a very noisy restaurant and you're walking out into a very windy street, your processor will be able to make those changes automatically so that you stay comfortable as you're changing your environments. It does have the highest IP rating, which is an IP68 rating against dust and water. We're also providing all-day hearing on just one charge, so 18+ hours after about a 3-hour charge. This is available in the software for both Rondo 3 and Sonnet 2, but MedEl has the ability to match with any hearing aid because our processors have the ability to provide something called bimodal synchronization. And again, that's just a word for saying that your hearing aid has a certain timing delay, and the MedEl processor has the ability to match that no matter what hearing aid it is. And lastly, but most importantly, the Rondo 3 is immediately backwards compatible to all MedEl implants. So no matter when you were implanted, if it's your time to upgrade, then you can just get that Rondo 3 and not have to worry about if it's compatible with your internal implant or not. And that brings me to the Sonnet 2. I also have mine right here. Mine has a little cat cover on it. My cat is locked out right now. I'm sure she's not happy with me, but that's my Sonnet 2 here. So, my Sonnet 2, the tagline is made for you because, like I said before, it is a little bit more flexible in terms of wearing options. So here you can have rechargeable or disposable batteries. It comes with that same automatic sound management 3.0 for analyzing automatically your environments. This has an IP54 rating, so it is a little bit less in terms of dust and water, splash proof. And if you wanted to make that waterproof, it comes with a waterware case that you could just pop that processor into. Just like Rondo 3, you would have the ability to blend in or stand out by personalizing the processor. Like I said before, mine has this little cat. I don't know how close I can get it. It's a cat that's knitting. So you can kind of make it fun. And then there are locking mechanisms if for some reason you didn't want someone to get to the battery. It has the ability for streaming through the audio stream cover, the audio link, and telecoil. And lastly, you can make changes using the Audio Key 2 app or the Fine Tuner Echo, the physical remote control, whichever one you prefer. So going into these accessories really quick, I don't want to take up too much of the time, but the accessories that we're currently offering, the first is the audio stream. Okay, so the audio stream is for wireless streaming to an iPhone or an Android. It's just a sleeve that slides onto the processor and allows you to directly connect to that phone or iPad. It is backwards compatible. So for my Sonnet users on this call, you can purchase the audio stream and you can set it up yourself in the Audio Key 2 app, and then you can stream automatically without needing to upgrade your processor. And if you have two Sonnets or Sonnet 2s, then you can actually stream bilaterally. So you could stream to both audio streams, so long as you have two, one on each ear. The audio link looks like this. This is the 4-in-1 device. So with the audio link, you have the ability to set it up to stream phone calls and media from your phone. You can also plug it into the television and you could stream the television to your ears. And a really cool feature is you can set it up as a remote microphone. So if you're out at a noisy restaurant or you just can't hear that well with the person you're communicating with, maybe you're in a reverberant room or a very big room, you can push this button here and that's going to access the remote microphone. And you can hand this to your conversational partner. They can talk right into it and it'll stream to your ears. The last unique feature of Audio Link is that you have the ability to mute your microphones and only hear what you're streaming. So if you're at a gym, right, and you don't want to hear the person next to you, you can push a button and then you'll only hear the streaming, okay? You won't be able to hear the person next to you anymore. You'll only hear your music. And you could do that in any setting. So if you're streaming the television and you're sitting next to somebody who's being loud, you can push that button and you won't be able to hear that person. You'll just hear the television. So in any of these 4 features, you have the ability for your processor microphones to either be on or off. And the last accessory is the Audio Key 2 app. So I mentioned in your kit, you're going to get a physical remote control. But if you don't want to carry that around and you're already carrying your smartphone around, you can download the Audio Key 2 app. And then you have the ability to make a bunch of different changes to your processor. So you can change listening settings if you want to make volume adjustments or program adjustments. You can view your statistics, so you can see your battery life, and you can also see what environments you've been in and how often you're wearing the processor. You can do Find My Processor. So of course, if you drop it for whatever reason, knock on wood, let's hope that doesn't happen. But if for some reason you were to drop your processor, you can use Find My Processor to locate it. You can access different MedEl information and actually submit feedback directly to our product team over in Innsbruck, Austria through the app, which I think is really cool. And lastly, there are guardian control features. So if you have a few people in your family who you want to be able to help you with your processors, you can set them up with the Audio Key 2 app and they can help you control your processors, and vice versa. If you have one phone and you have multiple people in the house with MedEl processors, you can set all those processors up on your one app. So it's very flexible in terms of the guardian control features. And it's really nice to be able to access different involvement within your household or within your family. And that is all I have for you today. I know we're going to get into a question portion. Please write down this email address if you haven't already. And I also just wanted to say thank you to the HLAA chapter for inviting myself and of course Jane to speak with the group tonight. I'd obviously love to connect with you all, and we're very easy to reach. Just please send us a little note and I'd love to connect.
Thank you, Rebecca and Jane. That was a fabulous presentation. I know we have questions for both of you, so please raise your hand. Don't forget to unmute your microphone. Tell us who you're directing the question to, and please introduce yourself. So I see Karen Rogers has a question.
Hello, I enjoyed both of your presentations. I'm going to ask a question. Well, I have cochlear implant. I'm going to ask a question from a person who wears hearing aids. And I know it's been answered, but I wanted to share it with them. So I would like to ask you both. If you get it implanted either by MedEl or Advanced Bionics, you cannot reverse it, correct? You can't just say, oh, I don't like AB, I want to change it to MedEl. Can that be done? I'm asking that question for people who are wearing hearing aids.
Jane, I'll start.
Okay.
It's not that it can't be done. It's just that you would have to undergo surgery in order to get that device that was just implanted, taken out, and then a new device put in. And that would be something that you'd have to talk to your insurance about if they would be willing to cover that whole re-implant process.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Karen, that I think that's something that an individual has to discuss with their surgeon. And that would be something that that individual would need to be counseled on. Like what would be the reason why they were not happy with the device? Is it a programming issue? Is it something the audiologist could address? Or is there something wrong internally? And that's something that that cochlear implant team would have to address first. It's just not a, gee, I don't like how this feels, or I don't like the processor. It really is a medical decision that would have to be made by that implant team.
Thank you. I was just considering the people who are thinking about getting cochlear implants, and I personally wouldn't do it, but I'm just asking that question for them.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Richard, you had a question? Richard? Richard, I believe you're on mute.
Steve, I think you need to just turn up your mic or something's blocking it. I wanted to ask Dr. Mancini, when I went to my audiologist at Westchester Medical Center, I did not know at the time, even though I had been wearing hearing assistance equipment, a bone anchored hearing aid and a standard hearing aid for 2 or 3 years, and nobody knew why I had lost my hearing. And this is when I first lost my hearing when I was 52 years old. So, how do audiologists decide which cochlear implant to give to a patient? You seem to start to explain that. I only heard about MedEl when I saw your flyer in my audiologist's office about 4 years after I got my cochlear implant in 2017. So I'd like to understand what led to what led my audiologist to choose the hearing, the CI that I have. I'm part of a listserv on Facebook where people are always asking, should I get MedEl or Advanced Bionics or Cochlear Americas? And I always write, ask your audiologist. We're not audiologists. But I'm beginning to understand from your presentation of the process. But is it have to do with the structure of the cochlear nerve apparatus? I'm beginning, I have a Cochlear Americas implant, but I'm very interested to see whether it can be compatible with what MedEl makes, or for that matter, Advanced Bionics, whose programs I use to improve my hearing. But your technology, and I guess this is to both of you. I want to thank you both for your presentations, since I was the one responsible for dragging you in here. Are cochlear implants mutually exclusive?
So
And
typically,
there's a whole lot of mapping and programming that goes into making cochlear implants work. Are they mutually exclusive?
so I think we both touched upon that in our presentations, and what center you go to for audiology services and what surgeon you work with, that sometimes, I don't want to say dictates, but it influences what manufacturer you may be implanted with, and they all function very differently center to center. So that may be more of a question for your audiology team in terms of the specifics as to why you were recommended a specific manufacturer. But beyond that, I would also like to say that there are different caveats within each manufacturer. And that's sort of what we were highlighting today, is to make sure that you speak with each manufacturer before making your decision. If you have the ability to, and if your surgeon and audiologist have made that recommendation, so that you can really gather all the information and kind of see what's different between the manufacturers and make your decision based on that information.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
and
Jane, do you want to add to that?
sure. I'm sure Rebecca feels the same way, that we hope, that when an individual goes to a cochlear implant center, that for the most part, they'll be unbiased. Because, as Rebecca and I both said, all three companies have the same goal. We want you to hear your best. And yes, there are certain situations where a center may feel one of the manufacturers might be better for you for one reason or another. However, and that could be anatomical, it could be a bimodal situation, it could be one of many different situations. But for the most part, we want people with hearing loss to be educated. And to be honest with you, I've had so many people that I've met with, they're almost angry that the center will not tell them what to do. But when you go to a center and they hand you 3 different packages of information and say, okay, go home, read all of this information, and then come back and decide. When you get knee replacement, you don't have a choice of manufacturers. Most people don't even think about that. But given that we have 3 main manufacturers of cochlear implants, I think most centers want to give people, the opportunity to learn and educate, because you may look at Cochlear and say, oh, I'm going with Cochlear because I like this, or I'm going with MedEl because I like this about MedEl. And if you go to the surgeon and tell them that that's why you're choosing it, if nothing else interferes, then the surgeon will most likely say, okay, great, that's what we'll do. Yeah, it's a tricky situation, because I met with a mom today of a young little baby, and it's overwhelming. Rebecca and I had to train to learn about this technology. It's intricate, it's constantly changing. So that's why, we love it when the audiologist says, here's Rebecca's information, here's Jane's information, talk to them, they will spend hours with you, and you can call them back at any time. And this way, you're able to make a very informed decision for yourself. And I think that's so important.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to say that we're so lucky to have the opportunity of having all these choices. As you say, with knee replacements and other devices, you might not even know those exist. So the abundance of choices and the information available on each can benefit all of us to such a great degree. Any other questions?
Looks like Neil has his hand up.
Please, Neil.
Yes, I just was implanted. I have MedEl. I have both the Sonnet 2 and the Rondo 3. I was implanted on my left side in 2001, near the beginning of the year, and then this year, near the beginning of this year, I went by,
Bilateral.
Yes, I'm a bilateral warrior, and I'm a great believer, of course, in regular oral rehab. I ate my rehab up. I did every day. I did, I found all these great opportunities, and so my speech understanding is almost as good as it was before. When I had just mild hearing loss, which is changed my life, because I was, when my hearing went from mild, gradually to severe and profound, I was no longer able to really engage in the way that I was before in, let's say, a Rotary Club meeting, when somebody would be up there speaking, I couldn't be stopping them at every minute saying, did you say this? Or, I was teaching, and my students were pretty understanding with, it was getting worse and worse, and the rehab and the implants made it, has changed my life. I'm one of those people that say, yeah, that's changed my life. Now, one aspect of my life that one of the things that I loved most about being alive on earth was music. I say was, and I would say to some extent still is, but, and I hear people who are implanted, they say, yes, I can hear music again just the way that I could before. And I'm not one of those people. I'm in a study at USC, and there's like 36 levels of chords and so on. And my brain, if I'm listening to a Beatles song I'm familiar with, my brain fills in the blanks. And I think I'm hearing most of the melodies, especially when it's a simpler melody. But when it's a complex melody or something I'm not familiar with, it's a lot of noise. And I noticed in the study that I'm in, yes, I can tell the difference between a third and an octave. But right now I'm at level 22 out of 36. And this is the point at which I'm making a distinction between a third, a perfect fifth, and an octave. If you're a musician, you know what those chords are. My brain is, if I'm lucky, I can get maybe 50% at that level. And so I'm working at that. So my question is, is there a prognosis here? Do people actually attain the ability to hear, maybe not the music the way they heard it perfectly with their regular hearing, but can people really achieve that sense of knowing the difference between a C, a D, an E flat, to some extent, if not perfectly, well enough to really to appreciate music on that level?
So I know that you are enrolled in this study, but have you connected with Johanna yet? Over in headquarters?
It's a study at USC. The guy, I'm trying to remember the guy's name now. I don't remember, but it's it's one. There are several studies going on,
right,
and many of them at USC. And I've been in at least one other there, and a few others with rehab. But I'm just really focusing on hoping. And so I'm just looking for some encouragement. Yeah, you're going to get past level 22.
So our musicologist on staff also has a cochlear implant. So I think she would be the best person to ask that question too. Music is so personal, and you sound like you have a much more fine-tuned ear than your average music listener. So I would really love to put you in contact with her and ask her your music focused questions, because she not only studies music with cochlear implants, she also lives it. She has a cochlear implant herself. So email me after and I can shoot you an introduction email over to Johanna, her name.
Okay, could you put your email address in the chat? Because that's direct.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm going to put mine in there as well, so you'll all have it. I know it was on the last slide, but it may have disappeared.
Okay, thank you.
There may be some questions in the chat room. My Zoom connection has gone a little haywire tonight, so I can't access that chat room, but if you put a question in, could you announce it to the audience?
Yeah, I don't see anything right now, Steve.
Okay, you have
Just
access to it as
one,
well.
yeah, one from the past that we mentioned.
I did get a direct message, a quick note. I wanted to highlight the fact that once you do make your decision with a cochlear implant manufacturer, the external processors are not compatible with different internal implants. So if you make your decision to move forward with MedEl, then moving forward, you'll continue upgrading with MedEl processors.
Yeah.
Right? And same thing with advanced bionics. If you make a decision to get implanted with advanced bionics, it's the same thing. The processors are not interchangeable with the implants. They're totally different sort of connections. Do we have any other questions?
Rebecca, I do have a question. Jane mentioned the relationship between advanced bionics and Phonak. And in your presentation, you mentioned that the MedEl devices are compatible and work with the delays that would be involved with the various hearing aids. So what is the distinction, if any, in that regard?
That's a great question. So the way that the MedEl implant is designed, in addition, adding in that processor, kind of that second tier, the goal is to mimic natural hearing as closely as possible. So the sort of technology behind the processing of sound is very similar to that of the natural hearing ear, which in turn is very similar to hearing aids. So MedEl does not partner with a hearing aid company because your loudness growth between both your implant and your hearing aid would be very similar, just based on sort of the naturalness behind both of those technologies. And also hearing aids have a delay. So it could be up to like 14 milliseconds from the time the microphones pick up the sound to the time the sound speaker. So the MedEl system, like I said before, it functions as fast as that normal hearing ear. You can slow that down to match the hearing aid delay. So for all intents and purposes, we're compatible with any hearing aid on the market, and your audiologist can make those changes for you in the MedEl software. I have a lot of patients who have a hearing aid audiologist and a cochlear implant audiologist, and they're able to kind of keep both of those relationships thriving as they move forward through the cochlear implant process.
Karen Rogers.
Hi, it's me again. I have a question. I'm a very soft-spoken person. What is the greatest thing to do to make my voice louder without sounding nasal? Do you know anything about that?
You know, that's a wonderful question, Karen. Have you, over the years, gone for speech intervention?
Yes, I have.
And have they worked on that with you? I mean, that could be really related to voice. I mean, you certainly don't want to do anything that would damage your vocal cords. So, you know, there are some people who have grown up and who have lived with a very soft-spoken voice, others who have grown up and lived with a more boisterous, you know, voice tone. And that may just be optimal for you. You know, I have a daughter who's very soft-spoken like that. And, you know, that's just who she is. And I don't think it's anything that you would say is wrong with the way you're speaking. It's just the way that you have grown up over the years and have used your voice. Is it something that bothers you or that people draw attention to? Is that why you're asking?
Well, because most people that I encounter have said that they can't hear me. I hear myself, but other people really can't hear me and I need to speak up. But I feel like if I speak up, I can tell in my voice.
Yeah, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want to be straining your vocal cords by bringing your
Right.
voice to a level that's not optimal for you. You can certainly work, you know, with a therapist, a voice therapist maybe, to see if there are ways to change that in your voice without doing any damage. But I mean, I can hear you fine. I think that your voice is, I wouldn't say that you have a voice that's unable to be heard. So,
Well, I guess it depends on where I am. Like if I'm in a restaurant, then they can't hear me very well.
yeah, well,
That kind of thing.
that's kind of to be expected, I think. You know,
I
that's
was
a
just
hard,
wondering if there's any exercises or something to help improve the voice.
Yeah, I wouldn't at this point try and change it too much. If I noticed something in your voice that didn't sound optimal to you, then I might suggest, gee, maybe you need to see a voice therapist. I mean, there are people who maybe have been cheerleaders their whole life, and you can hear that groggle in their voice, and that comes from strain. But if this is, the way you have been your whole life, then I wouldn't change that. I mean, you can certainly go up a few octaves. Any of us can do that.
I had someone speaking to me yesterday, in fact, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you sound different. I said, oh, well, I'm deaf. I have a speech impediment. And they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, don't apologize. But, that's what people are thinking, that because I sound funny, they think I'm from France.
Oh, well, that's not so bad. But first of all, you do not sound funny. I think I give credit to so many of you. It's just a testament to what the technology can do. And just keep up, like Neil said. Neil is doing beautifully with his listening skills and speech. Just keep up that work. It doesn't matter if you've had a cochlear implant for 10 years, 20 years, you still have to go back, to that listening practice. It's like going to the gym. You have to go to the gym to stay in shape. And then once you're in shape, you can't stop. You have to keep going at it. And that's important. But to be honest with you, Karen, I don't know that I would worry about the volume of your speech. I don't know,
Okay.
Rebecca, do you have anything to add to that?
I completely agree with everything you said. I mean, listening practice is so important, even if you're a hearing aid user or a cochlear implant user. And I am not a speech pathologist, but I do not, nothing stands out to me as, like a red flag in the way that you've been communicating with us on this call. So if the main feedback is from when you're in a very noisy
restaurant
environment, I'm gonna think that noise contaminated signal would be difficult for anyone to hear anyone in. And so that it's just a difficult communication situation.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I know it's getting late, so let's wrap up our program this evening. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank Richard for putting this together. If you like what you heard today, please invite your friends, your relatives, others with hearing loss to join our next chapter meeting. Details can be found in our chapter website, HLAA or in our online newsletter. You can also email us at HLAAWestchester@gmail.com. So if you'd like to stay on the line for a few more minutes to talk to one another, we'll leave the lines open. I'm having tremendous difficulty seeing some of you and your names, so I apologize. I didn't want to try to reconnect because I don't want to lose you. But thanks again for joining us this evening. We look forward to having you, those of us in our area, joining us for our annual holiday party on Saturday, December 11th. Thank you to everyone from New York, Texas, Florida. It's so nice to see you. Virginia,
New Jersey,
New Jersey, where I lived for many years. So, and Connecticut as well. So thank you again. And everyone have a great evening.
Steve, thank you so much for having us. It's so good to see some familiar faces.
Okay.
Yes, thank you all for joining, and this was awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to say hello. I don't like to intrude on the presentation, so I leave myself, with no photo, with no live feed. But I have to say hello to Jane. I have to say hello to my friends and all these boxes. So.
We need to have a true gathering. Hopefully we can do that soon. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I told you, Jane I had met. She came to Hackensack, which is where I am. She had an office there. And gee, I missed that.
I know.
That was, I didn't have to drive into Manhattan. It was so terrific. And
Well,
these guys up on the top here, unbelievable. We would always go to Paper Mill Playhouse. We go to the caption performances there.
yeah.
And that they started again, but I'm not going to the theater yet. And yeah, it's we've been on hold.
Maybe we can have a lunch date. That would be nice.
Well, that's a good
Well-
idea. That's a good idea. I have the Marvels now, you know that.
I know. I
Yeah,
know.
okay. And you know, and I keep telling people I feel like a bot because you know, the Bluetooth answering the phone and you don't hold anything.
It takes a
And
little getting used to, right? This new
I found myself telling people that I'm on the phone with, you know, that I don't really know that well. I said, you're speaking to a bot, you know? It's just really weird, really weird. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot of recommendations. If you're worried about music, there's an organization of musicians with hearing loss. They have a group on Facebook to connect. So that's one way to do it. And I have been going to the opera, which I also miss. The music, you know, being the Metropolitan into the movie theaters. And of course, I haven't gone. They started them again, but I won't go yet. And, you know, my pitch is not very good, but the opera is fabulous for me. And you just do what, if it's good, just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I do
And
that.
I know, Steve, you want to sign off, but I just thought of something that you said, Neil. When you're listening to music that's unfamiliar to you. So what I would suggest, pre-teaching is a miracle cure for so many things. So if you're going someplace or you have, you know, an event that you're going to, or you have to just know certain musical scores ahead of time. If you listen to that piece of music ahead of time that you're not familiar with and then go back, it's almost like training your brain to listen to something new. And given that you have such a fine appreciation for music, there might be some things that you can do where you can pre-teach yourself before you actually have to go and listen to that musical piece. And you might all of a sudden say to yourself, oh yeah, I recognize that now. It's all about that listening practice that you seem to do so well with, that you might want to consider doing a little bit of that. When things are new, it's hardest.
Yeah, it is difficult for me. I know, like, there's some music that I listened to where I had the score in front of me and I said, where the hell am I in this? I just, you know, so it's for me, I'm looking forward to a hopeful time where my ability to blend with more complex melody and timbre, you know, because I'm great at environmental sounds. I'm 100% in environmental sounds. I'm, you know, 90-something% on speech, on human speech, different voices, you know, speech and noise, you know, no problem. Well, you know, speech and noise depends on how loud the noise is, but music is, that's, for me, that's a reason to stay alive at the age of 77. You know, you know, there's more to life than what I'm experiencing right now, and I want to experience that. So,
Have you heard of the book Hearing Beethoven? It's by Robin Wallace.
no, I haven't heard of that.
Okay, this is, I'll tell you the story because it's worth telling. I went to music and art high school as a teenager. That was before I lost my hearing. Okay, and one of my friends from high school, we had our 50th reunion. And of course, there's a Facebook group. And so we keep up. So he's a music professor at Wake Forest University, and he was going to Vienna for a Beethoven symposium. All right, I asked him, are you going to ask about Beethoven's deafness there? And he said, well, I'll consider it. And he said, I recommend to you this wonderful new book from my colleague. It's called Hearing Beethoven. By
Oh, yeah,
Robert
yeah.
Wallace. Okay.
Yes.
And as soon as he said that, Robin Wallace, who was a man, commented to my friend David. He said, Arlene's book is mentioned in my book. Okay. Okay. And lo and behold, yeah. So I ran to Barnes and Noble and I ordered it and I bought his book, Hearing Beethoven. And there I was. It was a quote about being able to understand the music better. In other words, a string quartet, I said, sounded more like a string quartet if I was looking at a string quartet. Okay, you're talking late deaf and adult.
Right.
So he quoted my book there, and I'm footnoted there and an index there. And whoa, that is really cool. So and the book is terrific. It's very scholarly. The backstory is that his wife, who since passed away, but his wife had cochlear implants. And so he was a Beethoven scholar and his wife had cochlear implants. So it was predestined that he should write a book about Beethoven's deafness. It's a
I think
fascinating.
I need to get that book.
Definitely. There are a couple other people you might know in there too. And there's another book that also quoted my books extensively. I can get a few. It's not coming out of my top of my head, but also recently published. It was also a professor from which one? Up in Mount Holyoke. And she wrote about a young man who got his vision back, and he wrote about a young woman who got her hearing back with a cochlear implant. And while she was working on her manuscript, she was a professor. So these both books are very scholarly, they're like treatises. And so she kept coming back to me. I'm quoting you here and there. Am I getting this right? And that was interesting. And that just came out like a year or so ago, and she sent me a copy when it just came out, and I can get the information for you there. But the Beethoven one really was fascinating. Beethoven, he was deaf, and why did he keep writing music? And it's not the conclusion that everybody else did, but because he knew somebody who was deaf. Anyway, enough said.
Yeah. I know I've seen you somewhere, maybe more than one place, but was it with Wendy Ching's meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I said, I know that woman from somewhere.
Right.
Seen that face before. Okay.
Yeah, well, years ago when they were first starting that organization. And I've come to some concerts, and it's really lovely. So I'm so glad. Thank you for having Westchester meeting. I'm not so far from you, but this is easy.
Come visit.
So, okay. I just had to tell you about that.
Well, thanks. I wrote that down because my wife said, I never know what to get you for Christmas. And I said, I never know what I have everything I need. Well, now I have something to give her.
No, that's one book you really should have. But as for audio practice, I've been listening to audio books. It used to be books on tape. Now it's just downloaded. Since 1997, I have been listening to books. I have a list. I mean, and we're going into hundreds now. And that's the therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a list this long on Google of rehab sites. So one of my favorites is poets.org. They have a //audio where all of the poems are being read, that you can read. You can close your eyes and just listen to them, open them if you think you miss a word. And it's, one of my favorite ways of hearing different voices, different timbres, different levels, different accents.
Different accents.
Yeah, because all these poets, some of them are not even, English isn't their first language, but
That's
most of them
true.
write in English. So it's I've got a pretty good ear for accents. When I heard somebody speak, I said, "Oh, he's from Germany, isn't he?" Yes, he's from Germany.
Neil,
Yeah.
I did that.
I'm learning some things tonight, and that's a wonderful resource for us to recommend to other people who are practicing their listening skills. It's poets.org
Yeah, I think it's poets or poems. I always
or poems.
type in the
okay.
wrong thing. I could check this real quickly. Rehab,
Love
poets.org /audio. If you just go to poets.org, it's written poems. But if you use the /audio, they have hundreds and hundreds of poems.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
really,
Interesting.
yeah, I'm on it right
Love
now.
it.
This is awesome.
So the other conventional wisdom that I do is you can alter the speed of the audiobook. So if you're not looking
Yeah.
to win any races, and it's just more comfortable slowing a British accent down, or the speeds that they record them on, or the way they speak, it's very different depending on who's doing it. And it's just, a tiny tweak. I'm doing it for enjoyment. So I don't want to, I'm not looking to beat any win any medals. I'm doing this if it's more enjoyable for me to slow it down. I'm talking, infinitesimal. I will do that. And yeah, if it's an accent, or sometimes people just speak faster. So, and the other thing is that Bluetooth from the phone to here. So now I go for a walk and I'm like a bot again, because there's a control where you can eliminate the background noise or have it come on. You can control how much background noise you get.
With
So
your
I
app,
can-
right?
Yeah, I can, so I can control that and just shut down most of it, but not all the cars. So you can have a little bit. And this is new to me. That's why I'm so excited, because I really feel like this is weird. I used to wear, cordless headphones, and no more. And now I just walk. Okay, I yapped enough.
Yeah, this is just such cool stuff. My wife says I'm bionic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely are bionic. Yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks so much. I'm gonna this is my bath night. I'm running late for the shower. So, but every minute was worth it. So, thanks to everybody.
Well, thank you very much for this,
you.
and thank you for the social time.
Yeah,
Great
thank
insight,
Thank
everyone.
you so much to everyone.
Have a
Yes,
great evening.
absolutely. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye, Karen.
I have to say